Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Zealwood and today we are taking a look at the latest game developed by Mojang Studios, Minecraft Dungeons. A brand new game released on pretty much all platforms, and to answer the ultimate question, as always, is it worth your time? So, Minecraft Dungeons is a single/multiplayer action-adventure hack-and-slash dungeon crawler. Set in an established fantasy island kingdom, you take on the role of hero and are tasked with thwarting the plans of the game's rather short and very angry antagonist. You'll be exploring the various areas of the island map, finding an assortment of powerful weapons, armor and artifacts, all while taking on the new and returning enemies of the Minecraft universe in the Diablo-style fast-paced combat. So, aesthetically, as this game has the word Minecraft in the title, the visuals are obviously based on the renowned original title. This means that large, simple, block pixel design that we all know and love, except with considerably better effects and lighting for that added aesthetic oomph that you would expect from any good dungeon crawler. Colours used are pretty much identical to Minecraft for literally everything. This means simple, quite pale, plain colours which have always given the game that minimalist look to it, while also providing quite a realistic colour scheme. New objects specific to this game, however, like new textures, foreground objects and enemies, appear to be a bit more radiant than usual, but this is very likely due to the game's lighting effects. Now, I have to say, Minecraft Dungeons lighting is absolutely incredible. Literally everything in the game, like shadow effects, glow effects, particle, weather and ambient lighting, are incredibly top-notch quality and are so heavily present on every single area of the game. It gives the game's colours a subtle radiant look to them, creates brilliant depth perception and adds a whole new level of detail that you'd never expect to see from a game like this. I especially love the explosion and artifact effects, the various AoE procs, the subtle buff effects. I even like the quite dramatic weapon swings. Some would probably say the game's effects can be a bit too much, which can be the case from time to time, but due to the incredibly simple block textures they use, they get away with it no problem at all. Speaking of textures and design, nothing new there as you probably guessed. Textures like grass, stone, ice and sand are all copied from Minecraft directly, which is fine. Ground clutter is a lot more present in Dungeons specifically, which again they get away with. They've added some very nice ambient effects like weather and wind, and they have also included quite a few new foreground objects like bridges, barricades and other wood and stone objects, which fortunately all relate to the minimalistic design of the Minecraft universe very well. The UI is okay, and I have to say the simple design of it is a lot better than I originally expected. There's more than enough information within eyeshot, the objectives and proc icons are simple and effective, and the HP bars are obvious and very to the point. I like how the game lets you change the size of the UI to your liking, but I didn't like how you have no other customizable options past that. I also found that the refresh effect you see when an ability is off cooldown was definitely not obvious enough. So a lot of the time I didn't notice I could use a specific artifact again without having to avert my attention to the bottom bar, which I hope they do patch to allow you to make it a bit more obvious. Other screens like inventory and merchant screens are all very pretty and simple that cause no confusion whatsoever. The map, on the other hand, I personally thought it was horrible. It's literally a Diablo 2 clone with no option to reduce the opacity. It's located in the dead center of your focus area and isn't anywhere near as detailed as it should have been in my opinion. I recommend key mapping it to a much easier button to press because personally I couldn't leave the map open for more than 5 seconds at a time. Most of the game consists of a nice wide main path to follow with 1 or 2 deviations and larger block areas to give a nice feeling of exploration without causing you to get bored from constant backtracking like other similar games. Character designs are also very impressive. Again, most characters and enemies are pretty much identical to those found in Minecraft, except with considerably better animations, attack styles, and they now show minor body language and personality. The player character is by far the most noteworthy due to the huge variety of attack styles, item uses, and ability animations. Boss fights are especially powerful though and demonstrate this through their very to the point powerful animations and various intimidating effects. Definitely a big improvement to that action-packed feeling over the original game, which is to be expected for a game of this genre. Overall, a brilliant visual quality that has provided a fresh new look to the otherwise bare looking universe. The OSTs in Minecraft Dungeons are not bad actually, surprisingly quite powerful and dramatic orchestrated sounds used to give the game quite an urgent, tense feel throughout, with the addition of a few childish instruments thrown into the mix to reduce the seriousness a bit, which has definitely been done on purpose since this is a Minecraft game. They also included plenty of gentle tracks as well, but unlike Minecraft, even these have a bit of an edge to them which matches the game concept and style very well. The main melodies are quite crisp and distinct as well, but with quite a few tracks, the overpowering background sounds do push forward a bit too much. The main menu theme is by far the best soundtrack in the game to me, which I suppose technically isn't good news since it's not during actual gameplay, but like I said, as a whole they're not bad anyway. Everything else sound related, like the various attacks, environmental and enemy sounds, are all very good quality, but again are mostly returning sounds from the original game, which I like. The game also has the occasional voice acting from the narrator at the start of each stage and during cutscenes, which is definitely a nice addition to a Minecraft game. Overall, a pretty decent sound quality that matches the genre they've decided to go for very well. Now for the gameplay. So firstly, Minecraft Dungeons doesn't technically have any difficulty options to choose from when you start. It does however have a very similar difficulty system to Diablo games. This means you must complete your first whole run of the game on default to unlock adventure mode, then again on adventure to unlock apocalypse mode. You also have the ability to change the difficulty of each stage from easy to hard on a kind of slider system, which determines the gear level required and the gear level you'll get on equipment drops. So naturally, if you want the best gear in the game, smash it out as fast as possible to apocalypse mode, change the difficulty slider to as far right as possible, then grind gear like an absolute madman. The lore of the game is pretty straightforward. A small and angry looking illager, which basically stands for outcast in Minecraft, tries to find a new home at a local village. He gets rejected and pushed away, ends up stumbling across an artifact of power known as the Orb of Domination. This grants him some pretty impressive powers. He then decides to attack villages and take over strongholds all over the kingdom, thus becoming the game's main antagonist. You, the adventurer, decide to help the kingdom and take on the Arch Illager and his minions, and that's pretty much it. Fortunately, the entire explanation of the game's story is summed up very well in the intro cutscene. You don't see that very often these days. So once you start the game, you watch the very detailed intro cutscene, choose your character skin from a pretty wide selection which you can change later on in the game, take control of your character and play. As mentioned earlier, I'd recommend messing with your controls to your liking, mainly so you can open and close your map with an easier button if you're playing on console. If you're familiar with other hack and slash dungeon crawlers like Diablo or Fate, then this game's controls will be very familiar to you. You have your basic movement controls as you'd expect, your basic attack, ranged attack, 3 artifact buttons, healing ability and roll. Your basic attack when held down or spammed has the same results, usually a 3-hit combo with varying damage and speed depending on the weapon equipped. Your ranged attack can be held or spammed, producing different results in the form of increased damage and knockback when held, but again it does depend on exactly what you have equipped. Your 3 artifacts work exactly like Diablo abilities, except instead of having a spellbook to assign them from, you must obtain these artifacts in the world randomly. There are a huge amount of artifacts in the game with completely varying effects, such as a death-gripping fishing rod, a haste mushroom when consumed, and an AoE pushback horn, all of which provide very different advantages in combat and have varying cooldown times attached to them. Fortunately, these artifacts can be synergized with other artifacts and weapon passives at higher levels, which can be quite devastating if you're lucky. Your potion can be used at any time with a set cooldown, so make sure you use it sparingly, and your roll ability is obviously used to avoid damage, but don't bother using it as a speed increasing trick, because while on cooldown you get a run speed penalty until it's replenished. Not exactly the biggest selection of commands ever, but when combined with a quite unique passive system, does keep the game very interesting late game. Speaking of these other mechanics, you obviously level up from defeating enemies like most games. Each level up grants you 1 enhancement point. Each time you get either a weapon, armor or ranged piece of equipment at the cost of 1 point. It will allow you to choose from 1 of 3 passives to activate. Once chosen, you won't be able to change the passive again, but are able to upgrade it to a stronger version for more enhancement points. As you progress the game and obtain equipment with a higher power score, you'll eventually get to have up to 3 active passives per item equipped, which at end game can cause some insane synergies with your other armor pieces and equipped artifacts. It's nuts. The game even tells you when you can select a powerful passive from the 3 choices, which usually have increased usefulness plus over the standard ones. Also, when your current equipment has outlived its usefulness, the spent enhancement points can be reobtained by simply salvaging it into emeralds, which can simply be reallocated to your new obtained gear. Unfortunately, you don't get passive abilities on your artifacts, but let's be honest, I'd say a maximum of 9 active at once is more than enough anyway. Emeralds, also known as in-game currency, are used purely to purchase completely random equipment or artifacts from the 2 vendors at your base camp. And when I say random, I'm talking Minecraft's version of gambling. You literally never know what you're gonna get. While exploring each stage, you might find chests containing gear, jars containing emeralds, or if you're lucky, immediate use consumables with varying effects that drop from mobs, or even a literal piggy bank that runs away and drops varying items when killed. The general concept of the game is to start a stage, explore the area, kill lots of enemies, find lots of items, upgrade your obsolete gear, assign points to your new stuff, rinse and repeat until you complete the game. Same goes for the end game. Once on the final difficulty, you can farm levels, gear and emeralds. The only thing standing in your way is of course the various enemies and bosses. Combat in Minecraft Dungeons is actually harder than I originally expected. If you're like me and like to set stage difficulties to slightly higher than your power level recommends, then you're going to be under quite a lot of pressure. Each enemy moves very quickly, can combo you very easily, and tend to somewhat work together in certain situations. Plus, they only need to run away from you by 1 step and they're out of your melee range, which happens all the time. They also have plenty of AoEs, buffs and knockbacks at their disposal, so expect to be overpowered faster than you think. Bosses, however, are considerably stronger and can wipe you out fairly easily, considering their quite simple attack patterns, especially if you're not paying attention. And the best part, the whole game can be enjoyed via local co-op and online multiplayer, which is a brilliant idea. It is a shame that the online multi is via invitation only from your friends list and not a matchmaking system of some kind, but if you've got no one to play with, the game is pretty good alone anyway. Overall, a pretty interesting gaming experience that at endgame especially does become very entertaining. So for the ultimate question, is it worth your time? If you're new to the dungeon crawler genre, this game would be a great choice to start you off. Due to its extremely simple concept, however, it can be quite a grind early on, which if you're happy to plow through for a few hours, does become considerably better later on. I'm going to give this game a 4.5 star or 87 out of 100. The gameplay is so simple, anyone can play it. The story is very to the point, so there's no need for guesswork, but by far the biggest drive for playing this game past completion is the endgame passive possibilities. It's the endless synergy combinations, max gear score and efficient boss killing that grips you, just like the renowned Diablo 2. It does however lack the complexity of other similar games, but that raw craving for efficiency is definitely there regardless. It is a big shame that the early game can be very boring since you're just spamming the same 3-hit combo over and over for hours. The weapon range can be absolute shite starting off since enemies constantly walk away from you and you lack the mobility passives early on to help you. The minimap is unfortunately a Diablo 2 ripoff with even less usability, and the lack of matchmaking does make it more difficult to utilize online multiplayer. But either way, the soundtracks are good, the aesthetics are brilliant, and once you've passed at least the default mode, the game begins to show its true concept, its addictive tendencies, and its unhindered potential. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more games I should be reviewing each week. I'd like to say a very big thank you to all my viewers for a whopping 4,000 hours watch time on the channel. It's taken over a year, but we got there a lot sooner than expected. Only 500 odd more subscribers to go, and we'll be eyeing up that YouTube partnership program. But all in due time, I'm sure, all in due time. But thanks again guys, and as always, all the best, take care.